Would you say you're a psychic?
It's intuitive. We work from the interface between the left logical side of the brain and the right intuitive side of the brain. And that's what we call structured intuition. So we're not thinking during a session, but we're also not just wildly going with our intuition. You know, it's very structured, and it's amazing.
Hey, and welcome to the Forties Formula, your go-to place for insightful discussions on navigating the 40s and thriving in this transformative decade.
We're your hosts, Jasmin and Amanda, two women that are passionate about exploring the challenges and adventures that come with turning 40 and what lies ahead.
BodyTalk. Now, don't worry if you haven't heard of it, because I hadn't until a few months ago. So we have got Sufen and Rieke here to tell us all about it. So guys, can you tell us, what is BodyTalk?
Yes, hi, and thank you for having us. I think the best way to describe it is it's healthcare designed by your body. And that's what makes it so unique, because if you look at healthcare these days, every single time you're looking at symptoms or you're being pigeonholed by a diagnosis, you know? And so in BodyTalk, we look at the whole body and we look at the whole picture.
So what you've mentioned is healthcare designed by your body, and your body is very unique. And every body has a uniqueness based on your life experience. In BodyTalk, it's a healthcare system that's looking at your life. It's not really looking at the illness or the disease, because all that comes from the mind. And the mind comes from the reflection of how we look at life. And therefore, in every BodyTalk system, a story comes up. And therefore, the story is unique to everybody. And when we dive very deeply into a person's body, their mind, their life, that's where the body opens up to looking at how it can find a strategy to improve life, improve health, and everything functions together as a whole.
Coming at BodyTalk as a brand newbie, right? How does it differ from the lifestyle medicine approach, right? Where we're looking at the 6 pillars of lifestyle: sleep, exercise, nutrition, avoidance of risky substances. How does BodyTalk fit into that narrative or differ?
So when we look at the 5 pillars, we look at what's important to the body: sleep, diet, exercise, lifestyle. And then when we look at 5 pillars, we can also look at it as physical, mental, emotional, spiritual. In every aspect of health, it comes from somewhere. And that some place comes from if you're not having enough sleep, if the diet has been abused, we're not moving, not exercising, and not moving the physical body for it to get the nourishment, the flow, the energy. There is very little that the physical body can do to combat life, because we are still flesh and bones. We walk, we have to sit here in the podcast, we have to communicate, we have to do many things with different people. The space between us is very important, and that requires energy. So we cannot exclude anything from the physical unless you're saying that you're God, you're a deity, you're a spirit. The physical body is very important to look at.
This is something that's not considered the norm. You have people who've probably never heard of it before, or if they have heard about it, they don't actually know what it is. So how did you both get into BodyTalk? Like, how did this become a thing for you guys?
Yeah, Rieke has a very interesting story to share.
You're part of my story. My husband always tells me I overshare when it comes to this story, but
We want you to overshare.
Please.
I'm going to go for it. So in 2018, I moved to Singapore, and I had been experiencing about probably like 10 months of really severe chronic pain in my pelvis, right? And I had just been to so many doctors, I'd been to so many gynecologists, I'd been to A&E a couple of times, you know, nobody could tell me what it was. So one day I met my beautiful neighbor in the stairway, and she was just like, God, you look like death. And she was just like, honestly, really? And she was just like, listen, I know you're absolutely desperate. And I have no idea what I'm recommending here, but I went to this talk yesterday and there was this lady and I have no idea what she does, but it just sounded fascinating. So give it a go. So I booked my appointment and I went to see Sufen, not knowing what to expect, absolutely no idea, but I was desperate. I lay down and Sufen proceeded to tell me that I had a massive infection in my right ovary and told me all of the emotional things that had led to this event. And I was just like, I thought you'd Googled me or looked me up on Facebook. I was like, how can she possibly know all of these details? But I was like, okay. So she said, listen, you need to go back to a gynecologist and you need to tell them to examine your right ovary. You're going to need surgery for this. So I was like, okay. So off I went. And, you know, she did her bit, which cleared the emotions that caused the event. But it needed to be cleared up. So off I went and I went back to the gynecologist. And sure enough, all of a sudden, it showed up on the scan, big time. He did not say it was an infection. He said it was a tumor we were dealing with and that we needed to have surgery urgently. So I was like, grand, scheduled the surgery for in a few days' time and went in, had the surgery. As soon as I woke up, the surgeon was like, it was not actually a tumor. It was a 7-centimeter abscess and it's an absolute mess inside there. And you were 31 and I hadn't given him permission to remove any of my reproductive organs, but he was like, it is a total mess in there and everything needs to be removed. He said, I'm going to give you 3 weeks to heal from this surgery and we're going to schedule a full removal. And so obviously it's just, you know, your world is spinning and, you know, I just didn't even comprehend what was happening. But, you know, about a week before my surgery, 5 days before my surgery, I thought, I'm going to go back to that lady. You know, whatever happened was she knew something that he didn't even know. So I went back to Sufen and I told her the story. And I still remember you saying, you were just like, he is not removing any of your organs. And I was like, okay. So she did her session and she actually gave me, you know, some tapping to do at home. And I said to her, well, what am I going to do when it comes to my pre-op scan? And she said, don't worry, that scan is going to speak for itself. And I was like really? You know, and so I brought my husband with me on the day because I thought, I need backup. I don't want the surgery. And I just need someone to stand up for me and say, I'm not having it. But so I went for the scan and honestly, the gynecologist was flabbergasted. He performed the scan and he actually did not have words. All he said was, it seems that your body has taken care of this itself. And he couldn't explain it. And he said, I'm happy to let you come back in a week's time and we'll scan you again. And he did. And then I went back again 2 weeks after that and then a month after that. And I've never had to have the surgery.
Wow.
So then I had to go and study BodyTalk.
Yes, I can understand.
Yeah. Would you say you're a psychic? Is there some kind of psychic?
It's intuitive.
Intuitive.
So, you know, in BodyTalk, we use this thing, it's called structured intuition, right? And so in comparison to other modalities where they will heal you and they will use their intuition to heal the body. And it's, in BodyTalk, we use this thing called structured intuition, where we use the left logical brain to learn this protocol chart that we have. Okay, so it's this map of the entire body-mind complex. It has every single detail that you will find in your entire body-mind there. And we learn that so we know it in our sleep. It is in there without any shadow of doubt. And then we've got our right side, our intuitive side of our brain. Okay, and so we engage that intuition to guide us through that protocol chart. And how we do it, as practitioners, we're trained to work from our alpha state of mind during a session. And the alpha state of mind is the same state of mind that you enter during meditation. So as we do that, we work from the interface between the left logical side of the brain and the right intuitive side of the brain. And that's what we call structured intuition. So we're not thinking during a session, but we're also not just wildly going with our intuition. You know, it's very structured and it's amazing.
Amanda, I feel the older we get, the more important protein is. But the thing is, not many women are eating enough.
Absolutely. And protein isn't just for muscles. It helps with hormones, metabolism, staying full longer, and don't just guess, make quality protein a priority.
And that's why we trust the Meat Club. They deliver ethically sourced meats directly to you. You can get grass-fed beef, organic chicken, wild-caught seafood that is nutrient dense and packed full of the good stuff.
And here's the fun part. We want to see what you're cooking. Show us your creations and tag at the Forties Formula and at the Meat Club SG so that you have a chance to win $250 in the Meat Club goodies.
Entries will close on the 5th of June and the winner will be announced on the first episode of season 6. So come on guys, get cooking. And if you haven't already used the Meat Club, you can. And you can save yourself $12 off by using code TFF12.
Head over to themeatclub.com.sg, get cooking, and who knows, you could even get $250 off your next shop.
So I had a couple of sessions with Rieke, and I remember on one of the sessions, you said to me, I'm getting anemia. And at the time I was going through something and I felt like shit, and I did have a doctor's appointment booked, I think, for the next couple of days. Lo and behold, I went and Dr. Lim said to me,
My husband.
Oh, very good.
you need an iron infusion. And I was like, what the hell? Like, how did she know? Like, and it's weird. And then my husband was like, did she Google you? Did she? I never mentioned, there's nothing, you can Google me, there's nothing that says that I don't know
had the
how
same.
how does that even work? And so Sufen, what about your story? You started decades ago, and I hadn't even, like I said, since I only found out about this a few months ago when I
only found about it when you told me.
Exactly.
So,
So how did this come about for you decades ago?
How I found BodyTalk was through a very sudden autoimmune condition. I was struck with autoimmune disease called Graves, hyperthyroidism, overactive thyroid. And at that point of time, my heart was racing at 100 beats per minute at rest when I'm sleeping.
Wow.
And when I would walk, talk, or get angry, it goes up to 180 degrees. I was literally, hyperventilating all the time. And doctors, in short, wanted to remove the thyroid because my heart would not be able to take it for very long. The whole complex of how medicine works and the symptoms, it did not convince me it was the right course of action. So intuitively, it felt like no. And I was quite fortunate because my friend said to me, Sufen, you should go and try this thing called BodyTalk. And in desperation, and there's nothing else in this world that can actually give answers, the openness to try everything is there. And I tried it. And after the first session, my thyroid took a change. And within the first session and 2 weeks after the first session, I saw the doctor. And when he examined me, he said the blood flow to the thyroid has reduced. And he said that it means that there's some improvement. But because the blood test was still pretty much quite high, he still insisted on surgery and medication. And I said to him, give me a bit of time to think about it. And within 6 months, all the symptoms disappeared without drugs, just with 2 sessions of BodyTalk per month. And a total of 9 months, all the autoimmune markers turned off.
That's incredible.
It's like 0, not even 0.002. It's a 0. And just like Rieke, everyone learns BodyTalk because there's something miraculous, magical that happens to your own body that you cannot explain, but yet you feel so different with it. And you just have to look for it because something has opened up in the whole unexplained. Something has opened up, in a way you cannot explain. So you would definitely go look for the explanation because the logical mind cannot rest without understanding it. So like everyone, I took the class, I took everything, and I had no intention of teaching. I just took it for my own interest. But, one thing led to the other. You cannot learn this without practicing it. Because to understand ourselves, we have to first understand how the system works. And we learn it through the lens of another person, the body of somebody else. And bit by bit, as we explore and we observe, we find a different dimension of life that we can never reverse back from it.
You talked about structured intuition. And obviously the two of you sitting before us are female. And we always hear about women's intuition. Are there male practitioners of body talk?
Yes, absolutely.
And how do you think that there's a way to teach intuition? So you mentioned there's a class, you mentioned there's a protocol. Can you enlighten us into how structured intuition is made into a curriculum?
So structured intuition means when we look at the left logical mind or left logical brain, whatever you have learned in your life, whether your bachelor's degree all the way to your PhD, or the interests and certificates that you have learned, life lessons that your parents have taught you, that is inventory in your left brain. Okay, we use it all the time. And that keeps us safe. It is a parameter of safety, the boundaries. The right brain is creative, imaginative, is intuitive. That's the brain that was first developed when we were babies. Because when you're a baby, you can't see, you can only see up to a certain distance. The eyes don't see, and therefore they can see through the clairvoyant sense of visualization, smell, touch, taste. And all those intuitive senses from age 0 to 2 years old are the highest. We are born with it. When a baby is born, we always say that the ability to sense where mother is. I'm hungry, how do I call for help? I have a dirty diaper, what do I do? So there is a lot of instincts that is in there from the beginning of our lives. But after 2 years old, we start to learn math, alphabets, reading, numbers, and we develop the left brain. So the right brain has always been there. The left brain then started to come up, and we are very much taught in school how to develop the right. We've always been taught in school to develop the left brain. So when you talk about men and women, the only difference between why there are more women that take BodyTalk classes and lessons is because women are more open to things that are a little bit different. Men, they are very logical because that's the way they are. They're very structured. They are, structured, strong, and they need a very logical process in order to make money and provide. But it does not mean that men cannot do this. It just means that they need to take a little bit more time. In my last Mindscape class, my intuition class, I have 60% women, 40% men. There are classes whereby I have more men than women. And only my private Mindscape classes are only men.
Oh, interesting.
So it's not to say, what it is. I think in this day and age, the senior leaders, senior executives, they are actually now told that some part that's not physical that has to be looked at.
So what I understand from Body Talk is the body's meant to heal itself. But then obviously sometimes disease can manifest or an illness can manifest. Why does this happen? Why is the body then not able to heal from it?
We all know the body is instinctively designed to heal. And it's always trying to get back to that state of balance and that perfect state of healing. But for that body to self-heal, it needs to have constant communication, right? All the cells in the body need to communicate with every other cell, right? When life happens, stress happens, and like stress can be anything. It can be physical stress, it can be an injury, it can be emotional, it can be chemical, it can be an infection, right? When that happens, it disrupts that flow of energy and that communication. Let's say the nervous system was like this giant highway, right? And we have constant messages running up and down. They're traveling up and down between the body and the brain all of the time. But then say stress happens, it's like there's a traffic jam or there's roadworks, and it slows down that communication. And so therefore, things aren't functioning exactly as they should. And then, over time, it causes tension in the body. It's building up, right? It's not healing as it should. So it's building up. It can cause tension, pain, sleep disturbances, anything really, digestive issues, even like it affects your immune system. So it disrupts that communication. And then even trauma is even worse. Trauma is like, it totally disrupts. It's like a sinkhole in the highway, you know, and it's completely impassable. And a traumatic event, it's taken by the body and it is stashed away. It cannot deal with this right now. I need to function. I need to continue to perform, and it stashes it away. But those events still continue to affect our health for years after the event has passed, and in ways that we don't even realize. We do not make the connection because it is hidden away. And, you know, so that's where BodyTalk comes in, and it shines a light on these things because these things need to be addressed, you know, and that's what symptoms are telling us. It's the body screaming, saying, there's something that needs to be addressed. Put their hand up. I need to deal with this. Yeah, exactly. You know, it's time to look at this now, you know. So that's how BodyTalk helps to shine a light on these things again. And then when we bring it to the awareness again, we can, it's like the missing piece of the puzzle. We can help that energy to flow again because we've got all the details that we need.
So it's not that you're not supposed to get sick and you're not supposed to have these issues. It's more so that, yes, you may get sick, but you should be able to heal from it. So and it's the disruption to that communication, which is not helping you get better. Okay, that makes sense, because I guess, you know, a lot of people might think, oh, you know, should I be 100% healthy all the time and nothing's supposed to? It's not possible. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so, it is what we call this a belief system that health comes from having no illness.
Yeah.
But in order for life to change, like if you are in a road of always working and very stressed and we neglect a few things in life that's important, life will throw us illnesses because that's the only thing that makes us pay attention to ourselves.
Yeah. That's like a slow down.
Absolutely.
You need to take it easy now.
Yeah.
There's always a message in it. Always.
And it's really weird because I actually was having a conversation with a client the other day, and she told me how she's had a crazy first part of the year. That's obviously 6 weeks or whatever it is. And then she goes, and on top of that, now I'm sick. And my response was, I'm guessing you're sick because
of
you
the
need
6
to
weeks.
you need to slow
100%.
down.
100%.
So how does BodyTalk differ from like holistic healing or Reiki or energy healing, sound baths, all of those types of modalities? Is there a difference?
I mean, there's many differences probably. I think it's in the details. I don't know what you think. You know,
They are all good.
yeah.
They're all good. They have their departments. The difference with BodyTalk, because our slogan is whole healthcare, means it encompasses anything and everything. It's so difficult to explain how much we can cover. It's easier to tell you what we don't cover in BodyTalk. So we cover everything except if a person's born with a genetic illness, BodyTalk cannot create that one more chromosome. And BodyTalk cannot change a gender, because whatever makeup we are born with, that is what we are meant to live our life with. We are, however, able to deal with all the symptoms that comes out from those conditions. So we can deal with everything as long as it's not part of that genetic makeup. So when we look at any kind of health issue, okay, we are literally a healthcare system, because if you come for a BodyTalk session, the intake form literally asks you for all your health details. What are your last blood tests, your scans, any illnesses in the last few months? I'm not asking you for your mental and emotional state of mind. I'm also not looking at what has happened in your life, your family, or whatever. You go straight medically to your health condition, nothing else.
You talked about symptoms, and a significant time that some women experience symptoms would be during perimenopause. It could be anything from hot flashes to rage to joint pains. Can BodyTalk help women? Because from obviously the way we see it, it's a transitional period that every woman will go through in some stage of her life. And so it seems like it's very normal. But obviously the level of symptoms can change based on the individual person. So how can BodyTalk be utilized there? Can it be utilized there?
Yeah.
You know, the way I see it is women these days, we have much worse symptoms of perimenopause than we did in generations before, right? And there's all this mystery, like why? I personally think that we live in such a toxic age, like let's call it that, you know, and I'm not just talking chemicals or whatever, it's also stress, you know, it's just, I feel like when we as a generation come into our 40s, our buckets are full, right? We're coming in with a full load. And so then when the inevitable is going to happen, we're going to be on this roller coaster of hormones, and it's going to throw us because we're maxed already, you know? And so for me, one of the massive ways, and in which we have loads of people that come to us with perimenopause symptoms, we help in the way that we help to clean out the system, you know, so we're like that bucket that's full, we're helping to remove some of those, whether it's toxins and, you know, whether it's from the diet or it's stress, whatever it is, we're helping to reduce that load so that when inevitably you go through that roller coaster, you are able to adapt to that and you're able to deal with it much better.
Yeah, it's absolutely right and true. So I'm going to put in a little bit more medical perspective. Yeah, you think about your mom, your grandparents, all the women in the ancestral line. You never heard of this thing called the severe perimenopausal symptoms and all that. Because when we look at men and women in times before, men go out to work, women stay home and look after family. They only have one task to do. And that is a very big task. I cannot say it's only one task to do, sorry. So talking about, when you said men and are they, open to intuition and everything, what people don't realize is this. The masculine is spiritual. The feminine is earthly. And what happens is we are working, we're looking after our children, we have families, we do much more than just being at home and taking care of our families. The physical body for women is not meant to go out because the structure of how God created men and women are women supposed to be at home. But if you now place women who are highly capable in being able to go on into the workforce, they take very high level executive roles. In life, they are on the C-level. What happens in the body is there's a part of the body that needs to create a lot of testosterone, and that's the adrenal. So adrenals are a very important part of the human body because they have to secrete adrenaline and cortisol. But they also increase the body's testosterone. So when women do a lot of exercise, they get testosterone. And that gives them the energy to go out and fight out there in the world. So when women go through the periods of perimenopause, I'll tell you what happens. The ovary slowly declines. Like every part of the body, it slowly declines. What happens is the adrenals are supposed to take over that function to increase the female hormones that the ovaries are now depleting. But if they are so busy going out to fight the war, we don't have that balance. So it's very easy to actually treat perimenopause in BodyTalk because we are not looking at only the physical, we're looking at the way the mind goes out to look into what a person's stress factors are out there. If we can mitigate the stress factors in the environment, the mind naturally slows down. It calms down that stress. The physical body then does not feel it has to fight so hard. The adrenals balances. And when the adrenals balances, all the symptoms will balance.
Do you see a trend in the types of symptoms that women in their 40s might experience? Is there like a few things that you see again and again, or does it really depend on the individual?
100% there's a trend, I would say. Absolutely, yeah. Lots of sleep disturbances, anxieties, irritability, just fatigue, or even like loss of libido, and not just sexually, for life, like to just feel like they're just don't have the juice, that they need to face life at the moment. Yeah, for sure.
And those are identical to perimenopause symptoms, right?
Oh,
so it's like, these presenting
absolutely.
symptoms are absolutely the same.
100%.
And women actually
symptoms.
don't realize that there are perimenopause in nature. So sleeplessness, anxiety, the common one's joint pain. So they can see all the physical therapists and it's not working. I've seen women with frozen shoulder. They've been diagnosed with frozen shoulder, but it's not frozen. It's the libido has frozen for a while. That's what it is. And at the end of the day, when we look at libido, what's that? It is the pulse of life. It's the ability to enjoy life and go out there and embrace life. And the frozen shoulder and joint pains are literally the symptoms of perimenopause, because we are pausing something in life that we actually is not a pause, it is a new beginning, it's a transition. But we look at it as, it's the end of goodbye, but it's actually the beginning of the age of wisdom.
I love that. I love beginning of wisdom.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say we need to put that on a bumper sticker. I have a question, again, not having gone through Body Talk. So unlike Jasmin, I actually have not gone through a Body Talk session. Is there an element of prescription that happens after that? So do you go through the session and then you say, now until our next session, work on XYZ? Or is it more like you go through the session, something is cleared or something is attended to, and then that allows the person to then, perhaps, the way that I'm thinking about this, right, is someone comes to see me at the metabolic health clinic. I say, okay, I'm going to prescribe for you this exercise program, this nutrition program, this level of sleep, this level of hydration, right? So they leave with this little lifestyle prescription. How do you leave your clients after the session?
Do you give them homework?
I don't.
But you could. No,
in my whole time, I've never, ever, given tapping, but you did that time when you had to work a miracle with me. You gave me tapping.
You got homework.
But that was a very, very unique case.
When the case is very mental and emotional, there is no homework to be given. Because it's not a physical body issue. The mind shifts and everything just like that. It shifts very fast. BodyTalk is a very quick system. If you're looking for a hardworking solution to solve your problem, you don't come from BodyTalk. BodyTalk is very fast. However, if it is a physical issue that requires a little bit time for the physical body to change, because the physical body is very stubborn, there are many different scenarios that can happen. And it's very unique to each and every person. So if a person has an infection, I would usually say, the body's going to rev up in terms of the immunity. What can help it is water and sleep and sunshine. So those are the simple prescriptions I give. When I told Rieke to do tapping, it's because when you tap, you're synchronizing the brain to look at a certain area of the body and treat it. That means you keep reminding the body, you have to look at this, you have to look at this, you have to look at this. You don't forget about this. Fix it right now and don't forget about it. So when we say what kind of prescriptions, we have very little prescriptions or homework, because the body is so intelligent, there's very little we need to do. Unless the client's very stubborn and doesn't want to do anything to change their life, I would induce a prescription or a homework to do. For example, when people come for BodyTalk and there is a physical health issue that comes from lifestyle diet, I cannot say let's tap and then you continue your diet and sedative lifestyle and you hope the body will, lose weight. It doesn't happen that way. But with weight loss, for example, what BodyTalk can do is it can balance the chemicals in the body to help a person to not crave the sugar and the carbohydrates and allow the stomach to signal to the brain, that's enough, we can stop now. And so the diet in terms of calories naturally shrink. However, in cases like weight loss, I usually tell the client to drink more water, okay? To focus on what they're eating and think what they're eating. Is this intuitively right for them? So those are the little bit of homework that I would give them. But it's normally not anything major. I don't prescribe medicine. I don't prescribe a lifestyle. I try not to change the diet and lifestyle as much as possible because that's not my department.
Oh, I'm so hungry.
Oh my gosh, same. On recording days, I am the hungriest.
GYG?
Yeah, of course. What are you thinking?
Should we try their new chicken rendang?
Yeah, that's actually not a bad idea.
It's their special SG60 launch. Slow-cooked Guerrero marinated chicken in a rich rendang sauce with coconut, lemongrass, and over 10 aromatic spices. Sounds incredible.
And it arrives so fast.
Oh, wow, this is yum.
God, this is so good.
Oh, my God, Amanda, I wish our audience could try this too.
Actually, why don't we make that happen?
Yes. So here's the deal. We're going to give away 10 free chicken rendang burritos, or bowls. And all you need to do is 1, jump on your favorite podcast streaming site and leave us a review. And then 2, screenshot that review and send us a DM on Instagram at the Forties Formula.
And that's it. It's first come, first served. So our first 10 DMs will receive their free food. And make sure you get it in before 4th of May.
So get reviewing, get DMing, and get ready to enjoy some seriously healthy but fast food.
And make sure you check out the limited time only chicken rendang at all GYG outlets, but only until May 4th.
So you mentioned tapping. What is tapping? How does it work? And can we do it on ourselves? Is it for everyone?
You must do it on yourself, right? I'm actually not sure. Yeah. Can someone else tap you?
In an in-person session, we do tapping. But when we do a remote session, we don't do tapping.
If you do it yourself, then why couldn't you do it in a remote session?
So in a remote session, the client has to do their own tapping. Or the practitioner can do it tapping on the practitioner's body, but focus on the client. We can do it, but the tapping is... Once you understand what's tapping, you also understand how the body can rewire. The tapping is optional. Tapping is important because tapping helps us to focus on what we're looking at. So if I'm looking at the right ovary, I'm going to tap and tap and tap on the ovary. And that allows the body and mind to connect. It's a connection. It's a way to connect what we're trying to do in the observation. But there are so many more things that goes on before the tapping. Tapping is the last part of it. And when we say I prescribe tapping for my client to do, it's only so that they can remember what was done during the session, so that they continuously remind the body, this is what I'm healing. We don't give drugs, we don't give you any tools to bring home. It is so intangible. You can go home and you can forget what happened in the session. But tapping is a very subtle way of helping you to remember, okay, I'm fixing this part of the body. It's going to get better. This is going to happen to me after that. So that's tapping. For viewers' sake, I think, you need to explain to them what we do in tapping.
Okay. So when we tap, it's at the end of a session. During the session, as I explained, we will use structured intuition. And that structured intuition will give us a story. It'll give us some items and details. And we call this a BodyTalk formula. So once we have discovered or unearthed, this story, this formula to make energy flow again, what we do is then we hold focus, right? As practitioners, we really hold focus on everything that we've just found, and we tap the head. And so that's obviously our head brain, our brain. We tap on the head, and what we're saying to the head is conscious awareness, pay attention to what we have just unearthed from the subconscious here. So we're saying head, brain, pay attention. We tap on the heart, and the heart is going to store those changes. So you don't walk away after that session and everything goes back to how it was. The heart is responsible for storing all of those changes that we've just implemented. And the gut brain, which is so important, goes off and implements everything. It actually is the doer. It's saying, go now and do everything that we've just laid out in front of you. So the 3 brains are tapped because they all have their own function. And again, as Sufen said, when she told me to tap after my session, that was reminding my body, everything that we did in that session, we're reminding, heal. You need to heal. You've got one purpose at the moment.
So it's almost like the function of Shavasana in a yoga practice in a way. It's like that's the moment of absorption of the practice. And if you need to kind of let all the lessons of the practice sink into your body, that's the time at which that occurs.
That's it.
That's the only thing I remember actually after a yoga session.
That's why I go to the yoga session.
Do you find that people have worse symptoms the stronger the trauma or the emotional response or the emotional struggle that they've had?
We as human beings, right, we all have an amazing threshold actually, to deal with things. And our body, as I said, it'll always try and calibrate and come back to balance. We encounter things and it's always going to do its best to come back to the state of balance and the state of healing and calm. So we can encounter so many things, and then there's a threshold, and then it seems like this incident is what caused the symptoms or the illness to occur, but actually it's a backlog of issues. So a lot of the time, yes, when people have this severe situation that they come with and you dig deeper, it turns out that it is a catalogue of things, that have a long list of things that have happened throughout their life that have led to them not being able to deal with it anymore. So in some sense, yes, but it's always small events add up.
The physical body and the symptoms are a reflection of the mind. Person with a very simple thought process will usually have very simple symptoms. The person that has very complexities and a person with complexities in the way they think naturally exhibit very complex health issues. So we look at the brain like a computer CPU. If the computer is a VGA mode, a very ancient type of computer system, very simple, they have simple issues because that's the way the brain is able to regulate. And the universe never going to give them much more than what they can handle. However, in a more sophisticated brain, when the person's thinking in very wide multitudes of processes, the illness that comes into the body is very, very complex. But when we say which kind of body can heal faster, it's not about how complex the illness is, but how open the mind can be to change. And a person with very complex health issues, if they are able to turn on the mind to looking at things in a flexible and adaptable way, looking at it in a very creative and imaginative way, the body fixes itself very quick. So I usually look at a few things in health. How's the mind processing the environment? How intelligent are they? When I say intelligence, I'm not talking about IQ. I don't judge a person by that kind of thing. I judge based on how intelligent are you to see a different side of life, a different facet. And the ability to see that different facet, the very complex cases of health can shift very, very quickly because the mind is able to unwire the entanglement that has become so stuck based on that complexities of thinking that they can also uncomplex themselves. So I'm not interested in how bad the illness is. I'm looking at the way the mind can function to undo everything that has happened.
So have there been any situations or any cases where it's even got you questioning, like, is this real?
Yeah, every day, even until today, because I've been doing this for over 15 years now. So because normally when I go for a session, I finish the session, I don't think about it.
You always say that.
I don't, because if I were to meet my client, and sometimes we run into each other in the dinner party, and they will say to me, "Oh, Sufen, that day you did that and that and that." I was like, "What did I do?" I don't remember, because it's very awkward if I remember all the emotional stuff and the stories, so I don't remember. So now asking me to pick that brain, I have to go back into that whole category of.
Even my story, she was like, "Wow, that's fascinating."
I was like, that was you. That was, you were the protagonist.
I really don't remember.
I think that's a good way to be, because like when you're going through it, I take it, a lot of the stuff that's stored within is their emotional stress, their traumas, and I guess it's something then that you don't want to have to take on yourself. So I guess
I think Tyler, my husband, having worked in the emergency department for so long, he's kind of a master at doing this, right? Yeah. So it's like, exactly like what you said. It's like he might have attended to a code blue on somebody and then meet them at a dinner party and they're like, "Hey, doctor, you saved my life." And he's like, "Great.
Oh,
Glad you are here today." It's one of those things where it's like he solved the situation, or he addressed the situation, and then he had to let that person go on living with their life. It's like he accomplished that job for them.
You can't take all of that on.
Exactly. You cannot take all of that on.
Yeah.
So I think it's kind of a similar response.
I have seen a lot of cases whereby when women go into extreme stress, they hit menopause without perimenopause. They just hit menopause immediately and they don't get a period. I have had women come in for a session. They will say, "Oh, I have menopause. I have menopause quite early at my 40s." At 40. And I say, and I will ask the body if that was a natural way the body wanted to menopause. And the body said, "No, it comes from trauma." And when I went to the session and unearthed the trauma, and there's a lot of trauma relating to men, such as father passed away, husband passed away, anything that has to do with the masculine, women get very badly affected by it. And because the testosterone is what actually balances the estrogen. So women get cancer because there's not enough testosterone in the body. That's why the estrogen becomes dominant. So in life, it's the same. We need the masculine energy to be able to support women. And when that masculine is not there, the body can't function as the feminine. So she went into menopause like immediately. But after a couple of sessions, the period started to come back in trickles. We don't need the full bleeding. We need a cycle, because that cycle means a lot of things. So the reproductive system is very amazing. We really underestimate it. The ovaries are all about taking instruction to take action for the cycle. You want to do something, you need an ovarian cycle, you need an egg to come out. And the egg represents, I'm going to implant something, I'm going to do something new. It's a beginning of a brand new day, a brand new project. And we women, right now, we go out there into the world, we create stuff. We don't just create babies. You create the podcast, you create, the projects that you fall in love with and want to do. And having a period is important because we want to continue to be in that energy of being able to create. So when this lady came for a session, after that, she started to have her period coming back sporadically. And it's not whether it's regular or not, but rather how she felt after that. And she felt like, I could do this again. I could come out to life again. I could do all these things again. The things that she loved to do, she was able to start again. Yeah. And that's more important whether a woman gets a period or not.
And this is going to be a get ready for this jump, okay, this logical jump. But I hear you. It's like by reestablishing some level of her menstrual cycle, you were reestablishing her ability to create, right? It was kind of opening that pathway. And like I said, get ready. I feel like this is also related to constipation and women who don't pass bowels regularly. And this is something that I think a lot of women are not talking about that is an instrumental indicator of health and energy flow, right? And literally, if you are piling up with shit on the inside and not passing it through, how are you expected to be able to, like you said, have this creative energy or have space for positive things to enter your life, because you are literally 100%. Holding on to the shit, right? Yeah. But women don't talk about it; they're embarrassed, and they also think it's normal.
They do. Yeah.
Do you ask your patients how many times a week they go?
That's what I want to know. That's exactly what I want to know.
In my intake form, I ask them the standard questions. Are you, when you sleep, do you wake up feeling restful?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the questions we ask as well, don't we? Yeah.
How many times a week do you pass your bowel? 7 times a week, every day. And that is an indication of many things. When you talk about tapping on the gut brain's intuition. If we power on the shit, we can't see clearly the path ahead. And it is imperative to pass motion every single day. And then even
say it again, girl, for the people in the back.
And even when they say they do it every day, I hold on to the wall that I can check, is it clear? It may be maybe 50% a day only, which means they retain their old crap every day.
And I feel like your form, like mine is just how often they go, but your form actually asks like, how big is it?
So I'm very
you're also the category
of listeners
type,
right now.
That's a type category.
Yes, the Bristol stool scale. Okay, first of all, you want to look at your stool on the scale and see the texture. And also you want to be passing about 12 inches or 30 centimeters of firm solid stool per day. And that number shocks people. I could tell people, their optimal VO2 max, their hand grip strength, and they're like, wow, that's really intense. But when I talk about the optimized shit, people lose their damn minds.
I love that.
Right?
My kids would love a conversation because after each poo, they will say, Mummy, it was a 4 today.
I love a solid Bristol 4, okay? But it's one of those things, but it's these cycles, right? Whether we're talking about menstrual cycles, whether we're talking about sleep cycles, whether we're talking about bowel cycles, all of these regulatory cycles coexist in women, beautifully when things are right, and are the first indicator of when things are wrong.
Such a good indication, absolutely.
Are there any common misconceptions that people have about body talk. What are they, and would you like to bust them for us?
We often say as practitioners, it's such a gentle and non-invasive way of healing. And it is. It's so beautiful. It can release trauma without ever re-traumatizing you, without, you don't have to go through anything again, and it can all be released. So it's really gentle, it's non-invasive. But I think from that, a lot of people just surmise that it is slow, and it's not. It is so powerful, and it can be so fast. And to what Sufen said earlier about, sometimes the complexity of the mind and how easily it can shift. And you can have such amazing results after even one session, because it just depends on how easily you can shift your mindset, and we can release old belief systems. But yeah, just to that point, it's a really powerful system, even though it can still be gentle at the same time.
Powerful but gentle at the same time.
Yeah, amazing. We're actually coming to the end of the interview now, and it's been incredible learning about body talk, learning about both of your experiences. But before we finish, we do have one question that we always ask all of our guests, and that is, what's your 40s formula? How would you like to sum up what you think women can do in their 40s to help them thrive?
I believe it's about going into this stage of life, or if you're already there, it's not too late. I feel like it's going in and cleaning out your slate, cleaning out your system as much as you can, and whether that's looking at stresses and removing them, or doing some sort of a detox, and whichever way possible. As I said, I feel like we go into this age so full already that we're just not able to adapt to when the hormones surge. It throws us over the edge. So I think if we have whatever tools we want to use to clean out our system, so that when we enter this age, we're able to adapt, we're able to go with the rise and flow, and our systems are just that much more able for it.
Yeah, make space in your bucket.
Yeah.
So it doesn't overflow.
Absolutely, yeah.
I'm 48, so I have very little runway for, until I hit menopause. And I do a lot of physical stuff. Even though I do a lot of energetic stuff, I still come back to the physical. I look at my diet, I watch my diet, I exercise a lot, because the physical body is still physical. It requires diet and exercise. For the part which is mental and emotional stress, like Rieke said, the dumping is a regular thing we do every day. As body talkers, we are always consistently trying to clarify and clean the brain, clean the mind. But the physical parts are more important. Diet is very important. So, I take a very low carb, low sugar diet, but I do a Bikram yoga every other day, 3 to 5 times a week. And that helps to keep everything going, everything moving. So it's a combination of things that I do.
You're talking to a Bikram enthusiast. We'll have to talk about this more off of air, but I love that piece of information. Thanks for sharing that.
And obviously I'm on the low carb, low sugar side. Yeah. So a combination. But thank you so much, ladies. It has been wonderful having you both here. And and just finding out more about body talk. I think it's crazy, but fascinating at the same time. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having us.
Guys, we love coffee. And if you want to show us some love, you can always get us one.
Just visit buymeacoffee.com/the40s formula.
Cheers.
Before we go, please remember to hit subscribe and take a moment to support the 40s formula by leaving a review on your favorite podcast platform.
Your reviews will help us to reach more people and allow us to continue to bring valuable content. It should only take a moment, and it's a free way for you to support the show.
You can also stay updated with the 40s formula by following us on Instagram at the 40s formula, all one word. We share behind-the-scenes insights, episode updates, and much more, so please be sure to hit that follow button.
We appreciate your time and support. Thank you for being part of this community, and we'll be back next week for more empowering conversations with inspiring guests. Bye. trying to
no.
like take loads of water just so
Yes.
that I can get some. Yeah.
But
Okay.
in theory, you were holy.
Yes. Yes. Cleansed my body.